Hi, it's Dr. Syra, and I have to tell you a story today. It's a story that's like full circle. You know when something comes full circle? That happened today, and I want to share with you what happened. So, to give you a little bit of a framework of what I'm going to talk about, I want to first share a concept. And this might be a familiar concept to you, or it might be brand new. It's a concept that Esther and Jerry Hicks have written a lot about in their book. So this is a book called The Astonishing Power of Emotions, one of their many, many, many books. And I just wanted to read you a couple of sentences from this to explain the concept. And then I want to talk about the full circle moment. So on page 16, it says, "As you know what you do not want, you know more clearly what you do want. And so an improved idea is born from the contrast you are living. As you sift through the details of your life experience, day by day and moment by moment, you radiate a constant barrage of vibrational offerings. We call them rockets of desire outward." Okay, I'm going to read that again. As you know what you do not want, you know more clearly what you do want, and so an improved idea is born from the contrast you are living. As you sift through the details of your life experience, day by day and moment by moment, you radiate a constant barrage of vibrational offerings. We call them rockets of desire outward. So that's the backdrop to this story that I want to tell you. So a couple of years ago, my husband was out of town on an office trip, like a business trip, and he was in Toronto. And we got the news that my father-in-law had passed away. So it was me with the kids and my dog at home, and my husband was in Toronto on a trip. And we had to really quickly make our way to Chicago, where he lives. And in our tradition, funerals happen really quickly after somebody passes away. And so we had, just a couple of days to get there, to be with the family and to be part of all of the final rites and ceremonies. And normally, that would be no big deal. You just get on a plane and, kind of a deal, but, you get to the airport, get on a plane and go. But I had a couple of complications. So first of all, I had a big dog, and who was not really used to being away from me or us. And I didn't really have anyone local who could look after her. So we had our dog. Second, we don't live very close to an airport. And so even if I was able to figure out, to get the dog put somewhere for a few days, so all of these barriers were like coming up, and I'm like, ugh. So I just decided, okay, you know what? I will just jump in the car and drive to Calgary. It's about a 5 to 6 hour drive from where I live to Calgary. So I'll just do that. And so I picked up my kids from school, and told them that their grandfather had passed away and that we were going to drive to Calgary. And I had packed bags and all the different clothing for all the people. Like, my husband didn't have any kind of funeral attire. So I had to kind of pull all that together really quickly, get the dog in the car, get the kids in the car, and start driving. And that drive for me, is a drive that I've done many, many, many times, but usually as a passenger. So usually I'm not the one driving. But I grew up kind of back and forth on that road. My stepdad really loved the Rocky Mountains. And so at least twice a year, we would do this big drive from Calgary to Vancouver, and we'd, stop at little places along the way, or we would drive all the way through. And I was, like I said, usually a passenger. There's a couple of times that I've done the drive, but usually with other drivers, other adult drivers. So if I get tired or whatever, I can hand it off. So this was a big deal because it was me and my two younger children and a dog. And it's getting dark and I'm driving. And there's one thing after another that go wrong on the road. I'm sleepy. I'm a bit overwhelmed. Have to figure out meals on the road and taking the dog out and giving her walks in the middle of it. And it was just very, very stressful and very, very, I just felt so determined. I was really determined, but I was also felt very out of my depth. Like I felt like I'm not very good at this. I hadn't done the drive as an adult on my own, without other adults in the car. And I just remember feeling so terribly. Like just, I felt incompetent. I felt frustrated with myself that I was kept getting sleepy. The conditions were horrible. There was like fog and sleet and rain. I could barely see. And it was just so many different things that were just not working, right? But I had to get there. And the timing was such that, so we were actually going to fly out of Calgary because that was a big enough airport to get the flight that we needed in time. So I had to arrive in Calgary. My flight was at 8 a.m. So I had to be at the airport at like 6 a.m., to get there kind of early enough. And I literally pulled into Calgary at, 5 a.m. after sleeping a couple of hours on the road because I was tired, and it was just so difficult. And I remember that feeling of just like, why does this have to be so hard? Right? I was determined. I knew I was going to have to get these kids and this pup of mine there, but and Calgary, my sister lives in Calgary, so she was going to look after the dog while we flew to Chicago. But I just remember feeling so incompetent and frustrated with myself. Why didn't you try that? Like, why haven't you been practicing this your whole adult life? I had all of this, like, this barrage of self-attack going on as I'm doing this drive. And I remember my shoulders were so tight. I had a headache. I was just I was in knots. Have you ever had that where you're just in knots driving? It was terrible. Okay, so that was that experience. And then there was the experience of today. So that's where, for me, this is a full circle story. So I was in Calgary again, there for my nephew and nieces, they're triplets, and it was their birthday. And so I was in town for that with them. And I spent a few more days just to spend some time with friends and catch up with old acquaintances. And then we were coming home, and we come and everything's fine. The drive out was easy, and it was just my daughter and I. So, okay, back up a little bit. After that trip, I kind of got serious about wanting to be comfortable doing that trip, because I'm like, I never want to feel that way again. I never want to feel so out of my depth. So my daughter and I, since then, every year we do a girls' road trip. So she's little, like she's not a teenager yet, she's a preteen, but we've been doing this trip, and that trip has started to build up my confidence to do that drive without another adult. And so that was the trip. It was our annual mother-daughter road trip. So we went on the trip, and the way there was amazing, had a great time, sang along to the music. On the way back, things were going all right until we hit a snag. And there was that same like interruption and that same, weather issues and construction issues. What I wanted to share with you today is how differently I experienced it today versus a few years ago. The same drive, the same kind of weather, the same kind of interruptions and barriers, and same kind of sleepiness, all of the things. And yet my inner state was so steady that none of those external things really mattered. I mean, I came home later than expected. I came home a day later than expected because of all the delays. But I didn't come home in knots. And the reason I wanted to tell you this story today is because of this concept of contrast. Sometimes you're living the contrast, right? You're in knots. Things are not working out. It's terrible. It's hard. And what if we saw those moments in life as the moments where those rockets of desire get launched, where I say, I do not like this feeling. I do not want to feel this way. And that is so strong in us. It's almost like our future self is like, oh, note that. So when I had the experience today of driving and feeling so different in my body and in my mind, I just had to share that with you. Because if you're watching this and you're going through a contrast moment right now where things are hard, and you feel stuck, and you feel you're kind of feeling sorry for yourself, or you're feeling shitty about yourself, or you're just like, this is not where I want to be. That impulse is a good thing. It's a good thing because it's showing you what you don't want, just like it said in the book, right? What if we were to think of these experiences in life as an opportunity to launch new rockets of desire? that it's not a failing, it's not a shortcoming, it's simply a sifting and a sorting of what you don't want. And then there'll be this full circle moment where you may find yourself in the exact same kind of outward scenario, and yet your internal response to it is profoundly different. So, those are my thoughts today about the contrast experience. What if we can use it as, instead of seeing the things going wrong as some sort of a failure or some sort of a stalling or some sort of a something you're doing wrong, what if instead it was an opportunity to sift and sort what it is that I want and what it is that I really don't want, and not just externally, but how I want to feel. Because the situation happened again where I found myself having to do that drive. And yet internally, I felt so different that all of the external conditions I just managed through. And it's not to say I was like Zen the whole way. There were moments where I was like, oh, this is so frustrating. But overall, I felt so grateful that I wasn't up in knots. So those are my thoughts. If you want to hear more about this type of thinking and the how do I do that part, because there's lots of like really inspiring information out there and content out there, but it's like, but how do I actually do it? We can teach you how to do it. Come to theexpansionproject.com. We have a couple of short courses. We have a short course you can take, a longer course that you can take, or you could join us for our live event on June the 7th. And we can actually get into the nuts and bolts of how to do this, getting back into alignment thing that I've been talking about over the last few months. So I'll see you next time. Bye.